Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a totally fascinating and honestly pretty terrifying scientific journey. We're going to be exploring the frozen abyss, a global ocean collapse simulation. I want you to imagine, just for a second, looking out over a restless, roaring blue ocean. And then, in an absolute heartbeat, it's completely silenced. Our planet is entirely defined by its water. It shapes the continents we live on, it drives our weather, and it nurtures literally all life on Earth. But what happens if that crucial lifeblood just suddenly stops flowing?
Okay, let's dive into this. What if every single ocean on Earth froze in a matter of seconds? I want you to truly imagine the sheer, instant transformation of our planet. We aren't talking about some slow, gradual ice age that takes thousands of years to set in. No, we're talking about an immediate, absolute shift. 1 second, you've got crashing waves, and the literal next second, it's a solid, immovable sheet of global ice. It's a wildly shocking premise, right? But by running through a simulation of this exact disaster, we can uncover exactly how fragile our world really is, and just how much we actually rely on those vast blue waters every single day.
Chapter 1. The Instant Ocean Freeze. The First Minutes of the Frozen Abyss.
So let's look at the timeline here, because the terrifying speed of this catastrophe is really the main event. At exactly 1 second after the freeze, millions of vessels, cargo ships, huge cruise liners, local fishing boats, they're all instantly locked right in place. And because water actually expands when it freezes, this sudden massive shift would instantly crush the hulls of smaller boats, basically trapping them like insects in amber. Fast forward just 1 hour, and coastal areas which are entirely built around the normal rhythms of liquid tides enter absolute chaos. The moving water they depend on is just gone, replaced by a rigid, expanding shelf of ice. And within 24 hours, a massive, deadly temperature drop hits the entire globe. The sheer severity of just that first day would change human history forever.
Chapter 2. Earth's life support fails. Why we need liquid oceans.
To really wrap our heads around why temperatures drop so incredibly fast in this scenario, we have to talk about something called a heat sink. Think of it as a giant system that absorbs and stores heat, acting exactly like Earth's thermostat to keep the planet warm and regulate our climate. To give you an idea of its immense power, just the top 10 feet of our oceans hold as much heat as our entire atmosphere. It's wild. During the day, the ocean absorbs massive amounts of heat from the sun, and then it slowly releases it, which keeps our nights from becoming these freezing dead zones. But when those oceans freeze solid, they completely lose their ability to absorb that warmth.
And this brilliantly illustrates the situation. The contrast here is incredibly stark. Right now, our liquid oceans regulate the climate, they control the weather, and they keep the Earth warm enough to actually sustain us. But in this frozen abyss scenario, that entire mechanism just fails. The global thermostat is completely shattered. Without that liquid buffer continuously absorbing and releasing thermal energy, the extreme cold of space starts winning the battle for our planet's atmosphere almost immediately.
But, a broken thermostat is really just the tip of the iceberg. The life support functions we instantly lose are staggering. We lose the system that generates over half of the vital oxygen for our entire planet. Half of it. We lose essential food sources that billions of people rely on for daily survival. And we completely lose the engine that regulates global weather and storm systems. The oceans are quite literally the lungs and the pantry of the Earth. Take them away, and the planet basically starts suffocating and starving simultaneously.
Which brings us to Chapter 3. The global climate collapses. The deep freeze spreads.
All right, so with our heat sink completely broken, we see these intense, cascading environmental effects follow rapidly. Step 1, global temperatures plummet. Without the ocean releasing stored heat, the air turns freezing almost everywhere on the map. Step 2, regular storm systems completely collapse. Why? Because the water vapor that usually rises from the ocean to form rain clouds is simply gone. It's locked in the ice. And Step 3, snow and ice spread uncontrollably worldwide. It's a rapid, devastating domino effect on our atmosphere, turning a vibrant blue and green planet into a stark white wasteland in record time.
The tragedy of this cannot be overstated. Marine life dies incredibly quickly. The sudden freezing means immediate death for countless species, turning vibrant, noisy underwater ecosystems into silent, permanent graves. And the devastation doesn't stop at the shoreline either. Land plants, shocked by the sudden, extreme climate shift and the total lack of regular rainfall, begin to wither and die out. What we're actually looking at here is the rapid onset of a global mass extinction event, and it would be moving faster than absolutely anything in the fossil record.
Chapter 4. Society and Trade. Shatter the human toll. So the crucial point is that humanity is caught right in the crossfire of this incredibly fragile global system collapsing. Global maritime trade completely stops. Everything from electronics to medical supplies to basic grain halts because ports and shipping routes freeze instantly. At the exact same time, our energy grids are pushed to the absolute brink as demand spikes just to keep people from freezing to death in their own homes. With massive food shortages beginning almost immediately, major cities struggling desperately against the cold, and basic transportation networks entirely failing, our global economy and our basic survival systems would shatter in a matter of days.
Moving into Chapter 5, Mass Extinction and Survival, Adapting to the Ice.
Now, oddly enough, even in a total apocalypse, a few completely bizarre advantages do emerge. You've got new frozen land paths connecting continents, for instance, or the potential for really unique scientific discoveries deep beneath the permanent ice. But let's be honest with ourselves here. Those pale in comparison to the reality of the situation. The mass extinction, the complete climate collapse, and the global survival crisis overwhelmingly threaten our existence. It really makes those few advantages feel more like a morbid curiosity than any actual kind of hope.
So how do we even attempt to survive? Well, we'd be forced into adaptations straight out of a science fiction novel. Humanity would have to urgently relocate to newly built underground cities, frantically tapping into the residual geothermal heat of the Earth itself just to keep warm. Up on the surface, we'd require highly advanced, totally isolated heated shelters. We would have to rely entirely on technology for the most basic survival, generating synthetic food, filtering our air, and constantly fighting off an endless winter. Literally one single power failure, and it's over for everyone inside.
Which leaves us with this final, really profound question to consider today. Could humanity truly adapt to an underground, entirely tech-dependent existence? Or would this transform civilization so drastically that we'd be totally unrecognizable as a species? You know, this simulation of the frozen abyss isn't just a cool thought experiment about ice and temperature. It's a stark reminder of the incredible fragility of our blue planet. It proves just how deeply essential our warm, flowing oceans are to every single breath we take. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking big questions, and I'll catch you next time.